Hello everyone, here is Afra Siab. Today we are going to solve Cambridge IGCSE Physics Paper 2 Multiple Choice Extended held on May-June 2021 and paper code is 0625 with variant 23. So let's start from question number 1. Question number 1. The diagram shows a plastic rod alongside a ruler. Here is a figure which shows that there is a rod on which there is a calibration of 0, 10 cm and 20 cm. A plastic rod is placed over this. What is the length of the rod? So here we have to find out the length of this rod. First of all, we can see here that this is 0 cm and here is 10 cm. There are total 5 lines between them. It means that here is 2 cm, 4, 6 and 8. So the rod is placed where initial reading is 2 cm while the final reading is between 8 and 10. So there will be 9 cm. It means that the length of this rod will be equal to 9 minus 2, which is 7 centimeter. So the length of this rod is equal to 7 centimeter. Here is option A 2.5 centimeter, B 3.5 centimeter, C 7.0 centimeter. So C option is correct here. Question number 2. 4 balls with different masses are dropped from the height shown. Air resistance may be ignored. So here we have ignore the air resistance. Which ball has the smallest average speed? So here are 4 balls A, B, C and D. We have to show that which one of the following ball has the smallest average speed. So first of all, we can see here for the ball A, height is 1.0 centimeter. For ball B, height is 2.0 centimeter and for C, it is 3.0 centimeter and for ball D, the height is 4.0 centimeter. When the ball hits the ground, then their height is 0. It means that here there is the loss in potential energy because potential energy is related with the height. So here I use the concept that loss in potential energy is equal to gain in kinetic energy. I write here loss in potential energy is equal to gain in kinetic energy. Potential energy is mgh. It is equal to half mv square. So this m cancels by this and v square will be equal to 2gh and v will be equal to square root of 2gh. So we use this formula to find out the average speed for all of these balls. First of all, I calculate the average speed of the ball A. So I write here VA is equal to, here is 2 multiplied by value of G is 10 and height is 1.0. So that the speed of the ball A comes to be 4.47 meter per second. For ball B, VB is equal to 2 multiplied by 10 and height is 2.0. So the value of VB will be equal to 6.32 meter per second. For ball C, here is 2 multiplied by 10 and 3.0. So VC will be equal to 7.74 meter per second. For ball D, I write here 2 multiplied by 10 multiplied by 4.0. So VD will be equal to 8.94 meter per second. Now we compare the speed of all of these balls and observe that ball A has the smallest speed, which is 4.47 meter per second. So I circle here A. Question number 3. A cyclist rides 300 meter up a slope in 50 seconds. She then rides down the slope in 25 seconds. What is her average speed for the whole journey? So here we have to find out the average speed. Average speed is basically the total distance divided by total time. I write here average speed is equal to total distance divided by total time. Total distance is here 300 plus 300. First of all, she goes up and then come back. So 300 plus 300 divided by total time. She takes 50 seconds to go up and then 25 seconds to go back. So there will be 50 plus 25. So the average speed will be equal to 8.0 meter per second. So here option A is 4.0 meter per second, B 8.0 meter per second. So here B option is correct. Question number 4. An object is on the surface of earth. Which statement describes the weight of the object? So what is meant by weight? MCQs A. The quantity of the material that the object contains. So this is not correct. B. The quantity of the space that the object take up. It is also incorrect. The gravitational force acting on the object. So this option is correct because weight is equal to mg. So the gravitational force is acting on the object is actually equal to weight of the object. Option D is the object resistance to change in its motion. So it is basically mass. So this is also incorrect. Question number 5. The tank shown has the dimension 5.0 meter cross 4.0 meter multiplied by 4.0 meter. It is completely filled with water of density 1000 kg per meter cube. So here is a tank and this dimension is 5.0, 4.0 multiplied by 4.0 meter. What is the mass of the water in the tank? So here we have to find out the mass of the water in the tank. First option is 12.5 kilogram. Second is B 62 kilogram, C 16,000 kilogram and D 80,000 kilogram. So first of all here I use the concept of density, that density is equal to mass per unit volume, where mass we have to calculate. So mass will be equal to density multiplied by volume. It will be density is 1000 multiplied by volume is actually the dimension of this tank. So I write here 5.0, 4.0 and again 4.0, so that value of mass will be equal to 80,000 kilogram. Here D option is correct. Question number 6. The extension load graph for a spring is shown. Here is the extension load graph. The unstretched length of the spring is 17.0 centimeter. When an object is suspended from the spring, the length of the spring is 19.2 centimeter. What is the weight of the object? So here we have to find out the weight of object. So first of all, we find out the slope of this graph. I take any two points here. I suppose that first point is this and second point is this. I join these 2 points with the extension and load axis and find out their corresponding values from here. So we observe from here that at this point load is 2 while the extension is 1.5. So I write here 1.5 and 2, and at this point it is 2.9 and 4. So I am going to find out the slope of this graph. Slope will be equal to 2.9 minus 1.5, that is the value on extension axis, divided by 4 minus 2. So the slope will be equal to 0.7 and unit is centimeter over Newton. According to Hooke's law, F is equal to Kx, where F is load and x is extension, and K is equal to F over x. The slope of this graph is not basically equal to K, it is equal to 1 over K, but we have to find out the value of K, which is spring constant. So I take the reciprocal of this slope to get the value of spring constant. So K will be equal to 1 over slope, it will be 1 over 0.7. So that the value of K will be equal to 1.4286 and unit is Newton per centimeter. Next we have to find the value of extension. First of all, original length is given, which is 17.0. When the object is attached, then the length is 19.2 centimeter. So extension is equal to 19.2 minus 17, which will be equal to 2.2 centimeter. So I use the Hooke's law that F is equal to Kx. Value of K that we calculate 1.4286 multiplied by x 2.2. So the value of F comes to be 3.0 Newton. So this value of load is basically equal to weight of the object. So in the option, A is 1.4 Newton, B 1.6, C 2.6 Newton and D 3.0 Newton. So D option is correct here. Question number 7. A car of mass 1200 kg is traveling along a horizontal road and driving force is equal to 4000 Newton. What is the acceleration of the car? So here we have to find out the acceleration of the car. First of all, direction of motion of this car is towards the right and the driving force is also acting in the direction of motion, while the frictional forces are opposite direction. So first of all, I find out the net force from here. So F is equal to MA. First of all, I have to find out the value of force. So force will be equal to 4000 minus 1000, which is the driving force minus total frictional force, and it is equal to 3000 Newton. Now I use this value of force and find out the value of acceleration. So A is equal to F over M, 3000 divided by mass is given, which is 1200. So the value of acceleration will be equal to 2.5 meter per second square. Here is option A 0.83 meter per second square, B 1.2 meter per second square, C 2.5 meter per second square. So here C option is correct. Question number 8. Object X moves to the right along a frictionless surface towards the stationary object Y as shown. So here we have two objects X and Y. X is moving towards the Y while the Y is stationary. It means that its initial velocity is equal to 0. They make a noise as they collide. And then both objects move to the right. Then both of these move towards the right. Which equation is correct? Option A, change in momentum of X is equal to change in momentum of Y. B, impulse of the force acting on X is equal to impulse of the force acting on Y. C. Kinetic energy of the x before collision is equal to kinetic energy of the x plus kinetic energy of the y after collision. D. The momentum of x before collision is equal to momentum of the x plus momentum of the y after collision. So first of all, it is given that there is a noise when they collide. It means that some energy is lost there. So there will be no conservation of kinetic energy because it is not elastic collision. So C option is incorrect. Next we check the change in momentum of x and change in momentum of y. So first of all, change in momentum of x is mv minus mu, while for the y it will be mv because first of all y is stationary. So the change of momentum of both of these objects is not equal. A is also incorrect. Impulse is actually the change of momentum of the object. When the change in momentum of the object is not equal, so the impulse is also not be equal. So B option is also incorrect. Last one is D. The momentum of the x before collision is equal to the momentum of the x plus momentum of the y after collision. So this is actually the law of conservation of momentum, that the total momentum before collision is equal to total momentum after collision. So first of all, before collision, the object y is stationary. So the momentum of the object x plus momentum of the object y before collision, it will be equal to momentum of the object y plus the momentum of the object x after collision. So Py is basically equal to 0 because initially the y is at rest. So P of x will be equal to Py prime plus Px prime. It means that the momentum of the x before collision is equal to the sum of the momentum of the x and y after collision. So here D option is correct. I circle option D. Question number 9. A stream flows out of a lake and down the side of hill. What best describes the change in energy stores? So first of all, we have a hill and the stream flows out of the lake and down the side of hill. So what changes are there in the energy stores? First of all, here is A. Kinetic energy changes into chemical energy plus internal energy. So this option is not correct. B. Gravitational potential energy changes into kinetic energy plus internal energy. This is correct because first of all, there is a gravitational potential energy which is due to the height. When the stream moves, then it changes into kinetic energy plus internal energy. So here B option is correct. We also see the other options, gravitational potential energy plus kinetic energy. So first of all, there is no the sum of gravitational potential energy and kinetic energy. And D option, kinetic energy changes into internal energy. In the start, there is no kinetic energy. So D option is also incorrect. Question number 10. The energy input to a device is E. The amount of energy wasted by the device is W. Which expression gives the efficiency of the device? So first of all, efficiency is equal to energy output over input energy multiplied by 100. This is basically the percentage efficiency. Here the input energy is E. So I write here E multiplied by 100. What is the output energy? This is very useful energy. So the amount of energy wasted by the device is W. So the wasted energy is W. So first of all, I write here energy output plus energy waste. It will be equal to input energy. So here we have to find out the output energy. It will be equal to input energy is E minus the wasted energy is W. So the output energy will be E minus W. So from the options, option A, W minus E, so it is incorrect. B, W over E, it is also incorrect. C, E minus W over E multiplied by 100%. So this option is correct. Question number 11. A builder lifts 30 bricks from the ground onto a platform 2.0 meter high. Each brick has a mass of 4.0 kilogram. What is the work done against gravity by the builder in lifting the bricks onto the platform? Option A, 80 joule, B, 120 joule, C, 240 joule, and D, 2400 joule. So first of all, here we have to find out the work done. Work is the product of force and distance. Here, force is not given, but we can find out this force by using F is equal to mg and distance is d, where mass is given, which is 4.0 multiplied by the value of g is 10, and distance is given, which is 2.0 meter. But it is given here that there are total 30 bricks and the mass of each brick is 4.0 kilogram. And we have to find out the work done by lifting all of these bricks. So the total mass will be the product of total bricks multiplied by the mass of each brick, which is 4.0. So here I also multiply with 30 so that the value of work will be equal to 2400 joule. Here option D is correct. Question number 12. A book has a mass of 400 gram. The surface of the book in contact with the table has dimension of 0.10 meter multiplied by 0.20 meter. The gravitational field strength G is 10 Newton per kilogram. What is the pressure exerted on the table due to the book? So here we have to find out the value of the pressure. Option A is 0.08 Newton per meter square, B 8.0 Newton per meter square, C 20 Newton per meter square, and D 200 Newton per meter square. So first of all, pressure is force per unit area. Here force is not given, but we can calculate this by using the Newton's second law of motion, that force is equal to m and g divided by area, where mass is given 400 gram and we have to convert into kilogram, so it will be 400 divided by 1000, which is 0.4 kilogram. So I write here 0.4 multiplied by 10, and area is actually equal to dimension 0.10 multiply 0.20. So the value of pressure will be equal to 200 Newton per meter square. So here D option is correct. Question number 13. The diagram shows a tank full of water. The mass of water in the tank is m. The density of the water is rho. The height of the water in the tank is h. Which equation gives the pressure P due to the water at the bottom of tank? So here we have to tick the equation that describes the pressure due to the water at the bottom of tank. So this pressure is basically equal to the product of density, acceleration due to gravity, and height. So P is equal to rho gh. We see the options that A is P is equal to h, rho, and g. So here option A is correct. B is P is equal to mg8. This is actually the potential energy. It is incorrect. C, P is equal to m rho g. It is also incorrect. And D, P is equal to m rho h. It is also incorrect. So here only option A is correct. Question number 14. A liquid at room temperature is put on a metal surface which is also at room temperature. So first of all, I have this metal surface and a liquid is placed over its surface. These are the molecules of this liquid. Both of these are at room temperature. A student blows gently across the liquid and its temperature decreases. What causes the liquid to become cooler? So here we have to explain the reason that which causes are for the liquid to become cooler. MCQs A. Bubbles of the water vapor form in the liquid and go into the air. B. The moving air reduces the kinetic energy of the all particles in the liquid. C. Thermal energy flows from the liquid into the metal. D. The more energetic particles in the liquid escape into the air. So first of all, there is basically the process of evaporation. The more energetic particles escape into the air, leaving behind the particles that has low energy. As a result, liquid cools. So here D option is correct. Question number 15. Very small pollen grains are suspended in water. A bright light shines from the side. When looked at through a microscope, small specks of the light are seen to be moving in random jerky manner. So here is a beaker. Inside there is a water molecule and there is also the pollen grains in water. When the bright light falls on this and their motion is observed through the microscope here. What are the moving specks of light? MCQs A. Pollen grains being hit by the other pollen grains. B. Pollen grains being hit by the water molecules. So here we can see that there are the pollen grains and also the water molecules. So the moving specks of the light is basically due to the pollen grains being hit by the water molecule. So here B option is correct. We also see others. Water molecules being hit by other water molecules. This is incorrect. And D. Water molecules being hit by the pollen grains. So this is also incorrect. Next question. Question number 16. The liquid level in a thermometer rises when the thermometer is placed in hot water. What causes this? So first of all, we have a thermometer and there is a beaker that consists of hot water. The temperature of this water is very large. When I place a thermometer in this hot water, then what will happen inside the thermometer? Because inside the thermometer there is a liquid. MCQs A. The liquid contracts. B. The liquid evaporates. C. Liquid expand. D. Liquid freeze. When we increase the temperature, then the object expand. So here water is hot. The temperature of water is very high. So there will be the expansion of the liquid which is inside the thermometer. So from here option C is correct, that the liquid expands. Question number 17. A student calculates the energy needed to raise the temperature of an aluminum block from 50 degrees C to 60 degrees C. He then does an experiment to measure the energy used to do this. Which statement about the measured value is correct? So first of all, here is a student which calculate the energy needed to raise the temperature of the aluminum block, and then he also measured the value of the energy. So here is basically the comparison of the calculated energy and the measured energy values. MCQs A. The measured energy will be greater than the calculated energy because some energy is transferred to the surrounding. So this is correct because the measured energy is greater than calculated because some of the energy is transferred to the surrounding. So this option is correct. Option B. The measured energy will be greater than the calculated energy because the block absorbs energy from the surrounding. So this is incorrect. Option C, the measured energy will be less than the calculated energy because the mass of the block decreases as it gets warmer. So it is also incorrect because there is no effect on the mass. Option D, the measured energy will be less than the calculated energy because the thermal capacity of the block is low, which is also incorrect. Question number 18. Which row correctly describes a liquid that is boiling? So basically there is a process of boiling. Bubble scene, where it take place in the liquid. Option A, no bubble scene and on the surface only. B, no bubble scene throughout the liquid. C, bubble scene and only on the surface. D, bubbles are seen and throughout the liquid. From here, option D is correct because the bubbles are seen. Boiling of the liquid occurred throughout the liquid surface. So from here, option D is correct. Question number 19. Three students are planning an experiment to test thermal conduction in different materials. Students can propose a hypothesis. 1. I think the copper rod will be a good thermal conductor because it's a metal. One student says that copper rod is a good conductor because it's a metal. 2. I think the glass rod will be a good thermal conductor because it has free electrons which vibrate and transfer energy quickly. 3. I think wooden rod will be a poor thermal conductor because it can only transfer energy along the rod by vibrating latest point. So first of all, there are three suggestions that are given by the student. Which one of their hypotheses are correct? We have to circle the correct one. So here, first suggestion is correct, that copper rod is a metal, that's why it is a good thermal conductor. So the 3 is that the wooden rod will be a poor thermal conductor because wooden rod is an insulator. It has not good thermal properties, so it can only transfer energy along the rod by vibrating the lattice particle. So this is also correct. Second one is not correct because glass rod is not a thermal conductor. So option A, 1 and 2 only, it is incorrect. B, 1 and 3 only. So this option is correct. Question number 20. A copper plate is shiny on one side and is painted dull black on the other side. The plate is heated to a high temperature. A person places his hands at equal distances from either side of the plate, close to plate but not touching it. Why does the hand near the dull black surface of the plate feel much hotter than the hand near the shiny surface? So the hand that is closer to the dull black surface is hotter as compared to the hand that is close to shiny black surface. So first of all, going back, we can see that, so first of all, dull black surface is a good emitter as well as good absorber. So the hand that is near the dull black surface is hotter, which is on this side, because most of the radiation are emitted by the dull black color as compared to the shiny one. So the temperature of the hand that is on the dull black side is larger as compared to the temperature of the hand that is on the side of shiny one. So options are A, the dull black surface is a better emitter of radiation than the shiny surface. B, the dull black surface is a better conductor of radiation than the shiny surface. C, the dull black surface is a better reflector of radiation than the shiny surface. D, The dull black surface is at high temperature than the shiny surface. So which one of the following is correct from here? It will be first one, A, which shows that the dull black surface is better emitter after radiation than the shiny surface. It is also the best absorber but not a good reflector. Question number 21. A water wave passing into a region where the wave travels very slowly. As it passes into the slow region, what happens to the frequency and what happens to the wavelength of the wave? Here is frequency and wavelength. Option A, decreases, remains the same. B, increases and remains the same. C, remains the same, decreases. D, remains the same, increases. So first of all, when the wave enters into the region where it travels very slowly, then according to wave equation, V is equal to F lambda. Here the frequency remains same. There will be no change on the frequency when the water wave change its medium. The number of cycles remain same. So V is proportional to lambda. When the speed is low, it means that wavelength is also smaller. So wavelength decrease, but the frequency remains same. So here option C is correct, which shows that the frequency remains the same but the wavelength decreases. Question number 22. Light traveling at a speed of 3.0 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second strikes the surface of the glass block and undergoes diffraction as it enters the block. The diagram shows a ray of this light before and after it enters the block. Here is a ray of light that is incident on the surface of glass block and the angle of incidence is 55 degree while the angle of refraction is 33 degree. What is the speed of light in the glass? So here we have to find out the speed of the light in the medium, which is glass. We know that refractive index N is equal to C over V. We can find out V by dividing C over N, where C is the speed of light in the vacuum or in air, which is given 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second, and N is the refractive index. We don't know the value of N. We have to find out the value of N. So here I use the Snell's law that N1 sin theta 1 is equal to N2 sin theta 2, where N1 sin theta 1 is for the air, while N2 sin theta 2 is basically for glass. The refractive index of the air is 1 and sin theta 1 is basically the incidence angle. So I write here sin 55 degree. It will be equal to N2. We have to find out its value, and sin theta 2, it is refracted angle, which is 33 degree. So the value of N2 will be equal to sin of 55 degree divided by sin of 33 degree. So N2 will be equal to 1.5. So this is the refractive index of the glass, and we have to find out the speed of light in the glass. So I use this formula. So V is equal to C over N2. C is 3.0 into 10 to the power 8 divided by 1.5. It will be equal to 2.0 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. So from here, B option is correct. Question number 23. A beam of light is monochromatic. What does monochromatic means? A. All the waves in the beam must have the same frequency. B. All the waves in the beam must have the same amplitude only. C. All the waves in the beam must have the same speed only. D. All the waves in the beam must have the same amplitude, frequency and speed. So the monochromatic light is one that has same frequency, not the amplitude, speed So the monochromatic light only has single frequency or wavelength. So here option A is correct. Question number 24. An object is placed in the front of thin converging lens. The diagram shows the path of two rays from the top of the object. Here is a diagram which shows that there is a converging lens and object is placed on the left side of the lens. And two rays are emerges from the top of the object. An image of the object is formed on a screen to the right of the lens. How does this image compare with the object? So here we have to compare the image with the object. MCQs: A. It is larger and inverted. B. It is larger and the same way up. C. It is smaller and inverted. D. It is smaller and the same way up. In order to compare the size of image and size of objects, first of all we have to locate the location of the image. For that I extend these rays by using the rulers and find the point where both of these rays intersect. So first of all I use ruler here. So this is the point where image is formed. So this is our image. Now we can compare the size of object with the size of image. We can also measure this by using the ruler, and we observe that the size of image is larger as compared to size of object. And also we can see that object is upward while the image is downward. So image is also inverted. So I see here that the image is larger and inverted is given in option A. So A is correct. Question number 25. Which row correctly shows what happens to the frequency and to the speed of the electromagnetic waves as we move through the spectrum from gamma rays to radio waves? So first of all here we have to describe that what happens to the frequency and to the speed of electromagnetic waves. First of all here is given gamma rays and radio waves. The frequency of gamma rays is very large, while the frequency of radio wave is small. Also, wavelength of the gamma rays is small, while the wavelength of the radio waves is large, but the speed remains same. All of these rays move with the speed of light, so remains same. So I tick here, frequency decreases and speed remains same. In the option A, frequency decreases and speed in vacuum increase, which is not possible. B, decrease and remains the same. So option B is correct here. I circle B. Question number 26. The diagram shows a model of a sound wave passing through air in an open tube. Here is a diagram which shows that there are sound that is passing through the air, and these are the particles. What is the region Q? A compression, which is region of high pressure. B, a compression, which is a region of low pressure. C, a rarefaction, which is a region of high pressure, and a rarefaction, which is a region of low pressure. So first of all, at the region Q, the particles are further apart from each other, but at this region, the particles are closer to each other. So this region is basically compression. This is also compression, while this region Q and this is actually rarefaction. Rarefaction is the region where there is a low pressure. So from this option D is correct, which shows that rarefaction, which is the region of low pressure. Question number 27. The sound from a loudspeaker must pass through two materials to reach a microphone. Here is the loudspeaker and it produces the sound which reaches on the microphone, and it passes through two medium, material 1 and material 2. Which combination of the materials give the shortest time for the sound to reach the microphone? So which one of the following material take the shortest time to reach on the microphone? Material 1, material 2. MCQs A, air, hydrogen. B, air and water. C, copper and aluminium. D, water and oil. So first of all, we know that speed of sound is very large in solid as compared to liquids and gases. So I write here, speed of sound in solid is greater as compared to speed of sound in liquid, and this is also greater as compared to speed of sound in gas. So when the sound waves passing very quickly from the solid material, it means that it takes small time, because here their speed is faster. So the option C is correct here, copper and aluminium. Question number 28. A bar magnet picks up two steel bolts. Which diagram shows the magnetic poles induced in the bolt? So first of all, here is a bar magnet which is shown by the north and south pole, and there are two bolts that are picked up by the bar magnet. So first of all, this bar magnet is shown here while the bolts are shown vertically. As the two bolts are also very close to each other, there is attraction between them. If there is repulsion, then they can never exist together. So first of all, we see in option A that here is north and north. Both of these faces each other, due to which there will be the repulsion. Both of these bolts cannot exist together. They repel each other, due to which this option is incorrect. Option B, again we see here that there is north and south. So there is attraction between them, due to which these bolts combine. Here is south and south. But because of this south and south, there is a repulsion between them, due to which bar magnet cannot pick up these steel bolts. Option B is also incorrect. Option C, we see here that it's the south pole of the bar magnet, while there is north pole of the bolt. Both of these attract each other, while here is south and south. Both of these repel each other, due to which this MCQ is also incorrect. Option D, here is south and north. Both of these attract each other, and also south and north. These attract each other, due to which the bar magnet pick up these bolts. So option D is correct. Question number 29. A student rubs a plastic rod with a cloth. The rod becomes positively charged. What happened to the rod? So first of all, rod gets positive charge, it means that it has lost electron. So from the options, A, it has gained electron, so it is incorrect. B, it has gained protons, it is also incorrect. C, it has lost electrons, so this option is correct. When the rod lost electrons, there will be positive charge on it. Question number 30. An isolated metal sphere is positively charged. It is then brought near to another isolated metal sphere that is neutral. So first of all, we have isolated metal sphere which is positively charged. Second, we have neutral metal sphere, and then this positively charged metal sphere is brought closer to the neutral one. What happens to the charges on the neutral sphere as the positively charged sphere is brought close to it? Option A, some positive charges move to the left and some negative charges move to the right. B, some positive charges move to the right and negative charges move to the left. C, some positive charges move to the right but the negative charges do not move. D, the positive charges do not move but some negative charges move to the left. So first of all, we can see here that there is a attraction between them, due to which the positively charged metal sphere moves towards the neutral metal sphere. It means that on the left side there will be negative charge, due to which positive and negative charges attract each other. So because the electrons here are not tightly bound, but these are freely moving because it's a metal sphere, due to which the part of the metal left behind is positively charged metal ion, and these are fixed, they cannot move. So from here, option D is correct, that the electrons move to the left while the positive charges do not move. Question number 31. The diagram shows a circuit containing a cell, two resistors, a switch and a voltmeter. Here is the circuit which shows that there is a cell, two resistors, and this is a voltmeter, while this is switch. When the switch is open, the voltmeter reads 1.5 volt. When the switch is closed, the voltmeter reads 2.0 volt. What is the electromotive force, which is also known as EMF of the cell? So first of all, switch is open, it means that no current is passing through the circuit. When the switch is closed, it means that current is passing through the circuit. So here we have to find out the value of the electromotive force of the cell. EMF is actually defined as EMF is equal to work done on the charges to move them across the whole circuit. Work done divided by charges. So when the switch is open, there is no current. It means that there are no charges that are moving. So electromotive force or EMF is only present when the switch is closed. And the voltmeter reading here is 2.0. It means that EMF is also equal to 2.0 volt. So from here, option C is correct, because EMF of the cell is equal to the voltmeter reading when the switch is closed. Question number 32. A 4.0 ohm resistor and a 12 ohm resistor are connected in parallel. Here is a diagram which shows that there are two resistors, 4.0 ohm and 12 ohms. What is the effective resistance of this combination of the resistors? So here we have to find out the effective resistance. When the resistors are connected in parallel, then the effective resistance is obtained by using the formula that 1 over R is equal to 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2. So 1 over R will be equal to 1 over 4.0 plus 1 over 12. It will be equal to this is basically the value of 1 over R. It means that R is equal to 3.0 ohm. So from here, option A is 0.33 ohm, B 3.0 ohm. So B is correct. Question number 33. Which combination of two gates will result in the truth table shown? So first of all, we can see here that this truth table is for which logic gate? P and Q are the inputs, while R is the output. When both of the inputs are 0, then the output is also 0. Next is 0 and 1, the output is 1. 1 and 0, the output is also 1. Again, when both of the inputs are high, the output is also high. This is basically OR gate. In the OR gate, if any one of the input is high, the output will be high. Now we have to check that which combination of the two logic gates will result in the OR gate. Here is option A. If I consider that input is 1 and 0, then this gate is NAND gate. I write here NAND gate. When 1 and 0 combine by the NAND gate, there will be output 1, and next is NOT gate. Then 1 changes into 0 when I apply NOT gate over it. It means that when inputs are 1 and 0, which is given by the third combination, then our output is 0, but here it is 1. So this option is incorrect. We see the second one. So second is, if I consider here again 1 and 0, then this is AND gate. In the AND gate, when both of the inputs are high, the output will be high. Otherwise, the output will be low. So here the output will be 0. And next is NOT gate. 0 changes into 1 by the application of NOT gate. So we check again the third combination. It is 1 and 0. The output is 1. So this condition is correct. We also check the other one. I check another combination. When the input is 0 and 0, then the output of the AND gate will be 0, and this 0 changes into 1. So for the 0-0 combination, I check here that output is 0. So this option is also incorrect. Next option C. Here it is again. I consider 1 and 0 are the inputs, and this gate is actually NOR gate, and this is NOT. So when I apply NOR over 1 and 0, it gives output 0, and 0 changes into 1. So I check this possibility that inputs are 1 and 0, the output is 1. So this is correct. I also check other combination 0-0. When 0-0 is combined by the NOR gate, it gives 1, and 1 changes into 0 by the application of NOT gate. So when both of the inputs are 0-0, the output is also 0. So this is also correct. I also check the third one, that when both of the inputs are high, 1 and 1. So I write here 1 and 1. So when both of these are combined by the NOR gate, it gives 0 output, and 0 changes into 1 by the application of NOT gate. So for the 1 1, here is 1. It means that C option is correct. Going towards the next part, question number 34. A solenoid is connected to a very sensitive ammeter. Ammeter is a device that is used for the measurement of the current. A rod is inserted into one end of the solenoid. The ammeter shows that there is a small electric current in the solenoid while the rod is moving. So there is a small amount of current. Which rod is being inserted? A heated copper rod. B. Magnetized steel rod. C. An uncharged nylon rod. And D. Radioactive uranium rod. So first of all, there is also the ammeter that is connected with the solenoid and it is used for the measurement of the current. It is also given that there is a small amount of current in the solenoid which is shown by the ammeter reading. So when I move the rod towards the solenoid, then what will happen? If I suppose that here is North Pole and here is South Pole. So when this rod is moving towards the solenoid, some magnetic lines of the rod cuts the solenoid, due to which there is the induced EMF and also the induced current. So this rod must be magnetized. It should not be uncharged or radioactive. So from here option B is correct, which shows that magnetized steel rod. Because when there is a current in the solenoid, it means that the rod should be magnetized. Question number 35. A 12 volt 36 watt lamp shines at normal brightness when connected to a main transformer. Assume the transformer is 100% efficient. Here is a transformer which shows that two coils, primary and secondary coil. The primary coil has 1200 turns and it is connected with the 240 volt AC mains. Next there is a secondary coil across which there is a lamp whose voltage is 12 volt and power is 36 watt. Which row shows the number of turns of the secondary coil and the current in the main wires? So here basically we have to find out the number of turns of the secondary coil and the current in the main wires. It means that the current of primary coil. So going back, here data is given. So first of all, I find out the number of turns. Here I use the formula that Ns over Np is equal to Vs over Vp. So from here, Ns will be equal to Vs over Vp multiplied by Np, where N shows the number of turns and V is the voltage. So Ns will be equal to Vs, here is 12 volt, multiplied by Np, 1200, divided by Vp. So Vp is 240 volt. So the number of turns of the secondary coil comes to be 60. So we have calculated the number of turns. Next we have to find out the current in the main wire. For that it is given that transformer is 100% efficient and the power across the lamp is also given. So first of all I write here power is equal to product of current and voltage. From here I find out the value of current. Here is Vs. Power is 36 divided by it is 12. So it will be equal to 3.0 ampere. So this is the current across the secondary coil. Next here I use that input power is equal to output power, that the power of the primary coil will be equal to power of the secondary. Power is the product of current and voltage. It will be equal to Is and Vs. So Ip is equal to Is Vs over Vp. The current in secondary is 3.0 multiply Vs is 12 divided by Vp is 240. So the value of current Ip will be equal to 0.15 ampere. So from here, number of turns in the secondary coil is given and the current in the main wire is given, which is measured in the ampere. So option A, 60 are the number of turns and 0.15 is the current. So our current is also 0.15 and the value of number of turns are 60. So from here, option A is correct. Question number 36. Diagram 1 shows a wire carrying an electric current into the page. The wire is between the poles of the magnet. A force is produced on the wire acting downwards the bottom of the page. Diagram 2 shows the situation after the current is reversed and the magnet is turned through 90 degree. So first of all, it is given that in the diagram 1, the current is into the page. But then in the diagram 2, it is shown by the dot, which means that current is out of page. Next, the direction of magnetic field is from north to south. It means here the direction is from north to south, but here it is upward. A force is produced on the wire acting downwards towards the bottom of the page. So in the diagram 1, the force is acting in downward direction. In which direction does the force act after these changes? So when we change the direction of current and also the magnetic field, then in which direction the force act on these changes? So first of all, I write here current is out of page and magnetic field is upward. So we have to find out direction of the force. Here I rotate my right hand from the direction of current towards the direction of the magnetic field. Then my thumb will indicate the direction of the force. By using this right hand rule, I see that the direction of the force will be towards the left side of the page. So if I suppose that this is out of page current while the magnetic field is upward, I have rotated the current vector in the direction of magnetic field. Then my thumb will indicate the direction of the force and it is towards the left side of the page. So options are given here. A, towards the top of the page. B, towards the bottom of the page. C, towards the left side of the page. So basically the direction is towards the left side. D, towards the right side, which is also incorrect. Question number 37. The charge on the proton is E. What is the charge on the electron and what is the charge on neutron? So we know that the charge on the proton is positive 1, while the charge on the electron is negative 1. It means that the charge on the electron and proton equal in magnitude, but there is a difference of sign. So if the charge on proton is E, then the charge on electron will be minus E. But neutron is a neutral. It does not have any charge, so it is equal to 0. Here option is given, electron and neutron. Option A, E and E. So it is incorrect because the neutron is neutral. B, E and 0. The charge on the electron is minus E. So it is also incorrect. C, minus E and minus E. It is also incorrect. And D, minus E and 0. So D option is correct. Question number 38. The diagram shows alpha particles incident on a thin metal foil. So here we can see that there are alpha particles that are incident on the thin metal foil. Some of these alpha particles passing straight forward, while there will also be the deflection here, which is shown by this bending path. How does the motion of these particles give evidence for the nuclear atom? MCQs A. Most particles passing through with minimal deflection shows that the atom is mostly empty space. Option B. Most particles passing through with minimal deflection shows that the mass of atom is uniformly distributed. C. Large deflection of some particles shows that the atom is mostly empty space. D. Large deflections of some particles show that the charge in the atom is uniformly distributed. So first of all, we see here that there are minimal deflection, which shows that atom is empty space. So from here option A is correct. Question number 39. Radium-226, whose symbol is Ra. Number of protons are 88 while the mass number is 226. Is an alpha emitter. It is implanted inside cancerous tumor. It is safe to use as it kills the cancerous cell but not the healthy ones surrounding the tumor. Which properties of the alpha particles compared to the other emissions enable this use of the radium-226? So first of all, ionization effect of the alpha particles and penetration of alpha particles. The ionization of alpha particle is very high, while the penetration power of alpha particle is very low. So from here option A is high and high, which is incorrect. B, high and low. So option B is correct here. Question number 40. The diagram shows the activity of the radioactive source over a period of time. Here is a graph which shows the activity, which is count per second, and time, which is measured in minutes. What is the half-life of the source? So here we have to find out the half-life. Half-life is the time during half of the element's decay at the count rate remain half. So first of all, initially when time t is equal to 0, here it is given that count rate is 120. So when count rate remains half, it will be 120 divided by 2, which is 60. 60 is given at this point. Here corresponding time is 2. It means that half-life is 2. When 2 minutes pass, half of the elements decay. So from here B option is correct.